We've ministered to people who have had as many as 25 abortions. And even they, upon repenting of their sins, can and will be welcomed back to the peace, the mercy, the forgiveness of Christ. So no one should despair. We are not against you, we are on your side. And this is the message that you and I have to convey to everyone in our society. Come to us and experience the freedom and the mercy of the God of life. We can do this. But you know, when we do, you know what some people will say to you and me? When we speak up about abortion, you know the response we're often going to get? People will say to us, mind your own business. If you're against abortion, fine, don't have one. But leave the rest of us alone to make our own choices. My friends, I ask you tonight, do you ever hear people talk that way about child abuse? Well, if you're against child abuse, don't abuse your child. But leave the rest of us alone to make our own choices. Violent crime? Well, if you don't believe in it, don't commit one. But leave the rest of us alone to make our own choices. We don't hear people talk that way about child abuse and about violent crime because we understand that some choices have victims. And when somebody's choice destroys somebody else's life, brothers and sisters, that is our business. It is the business of every decent human being who understands that when another human being is in danger or in need, we try to help them. And if we can't save them, well, at least we speak up for them. But we don't turn the other way and pretend that it's none of our business. It is. What if they were right who say that this is none of our business? What if they were right who say that the abortion tomorrow of someone right here in our own neighborhood has nothing to do with us, and we can just turn the other way and let it happen? If that were true, then let's ask another simple question. Why would it be any of our business that a violent crime be committed in our streets? Because after all, if we don't need to intervene to save that baby from being torn apart and thrown in the garbage, why do we need to intervene to save the teenager or the adult who's going to be stabbed or shot in the street? Why must we concern ourselves with that? If we don't know their name, if we've never seen their face, if it's not a relative or a friend of ours, why should we trouble ourselves? We can just mind our own business. Why, indeed, should we feed the poor in other parts of the world? Why, indeed, if there is a hurricane, a tsunami, an earthquake, some other part of the world, a famine, why would we concern ourselves with that? Brothers and sisters, the idea that somehow the abortion of a child tomorrow is none of our concern undermines our concern about every other issue. It undermines our concern and our commitment for the starving and for the poor, for the hungry and for the homeless, for the victims of natural disasters and war and terrorism. It undermines our concern for all these people. The entire structure of our care for other human beings collapses if, in fact, it doesn't matter to us that a child is being killed and thrown in the garbage tomorrow. And you know, natural disasters, they're not scheduled. Crimes are not usually announced as to when and where they're going to happen. If they were, you'd have an awful lot of people there ready to stop them. But the abortions, we do know. Publicly advertised, we know where these facilities are. We know when they're open and when they're closed. Yes, it's our business. Yes, indeed, these are our brothers and sisters. And that's why you and I should never let anyone make us feel afraid or ashamed or out of place for speaking up for our unborn brothers and sisters. Never let anyone make you feel like it is none of your business. So many of you already do. So many things, and this flyer goes on to describe what some of those things are that you can do to help save lives. So many people have gotten involved in this movement. You know, I speak to people all over the country who every day are getting involved in the pro-life movement, and you know what most of them say? I got involved in this when I finally saw what an abortion was. Maybe they saw a video, maybe they saw a picture. And you'll see in this flyer, there's a special website that we maintain called unborn.info. And at unborn.info, we show people what an abortion looks like. Many people can, you can justify anything with words. You can argue with people for hours and days on end about words, and with words we can justify anything. But one of the first things to ask a person who is trying to say to you that they think abortion is okay is to ask them a simple question: have you ever seen one? Go to unborn.info. Show people the pictures of what the unborn baby looks like. It'll change the conversation. It'll change their mind. Because with words, we often do not connect with the reality of what we're talking about. Brothers and sisters, we challenge our whole society. We challenge the media. Show the American people what an abortion is. Show to the politicians, so many of them who say, oh yes, we have to keep abortion legal. They're not even willing to admit what it is or to describe how it's done. And yet when we do that, so many people are awakened in their conscience and then commit themselves to this movement. I know a pastor who has spent decades now in pro-life leadership, devoting the majority of his time. He got involved in this movement when someone actually brought to him at his rectory the body of an aborted child who had been found in the garbage. And they brought the baby to the pastor to ask him if he could do a burial. And he sat there in his rectory looking at that child, and he repented of having been so silent, so afraid to even raise this topic. And then he got involved in pro-life activity for the rest of his life. So many people, young and old. I was just at a high school in North Dakota. The entire school is coming out for the March for Life in January in Washington. The entire school. They have been awakened to this issue. Their consciences have been stirred. These high school students, so many of them, just when they hear the simple fact that we have mentioned here tonight, that there are all these pregnancy centers, they look at this website, pregnancycenters.org, and they say, well, I'm going to start spreading the word about this. And then they go online and they go on to social media and onto Facebook and Twitter, and they start saying it to all their followers and friends. Did you know that there's help available? And they realize, if I don't use my voice, there are some people who are not going to be reached. And brothers and sisters, I say that to you tonight. You know, we at Priests for Life have dozens of websites. As many of you see, we have our television and radio programs. We go around and speak in churches like this all the time. We send out millions of pieces of mail. And yet with all that, the fact remains, there are some people only you can reach. Some abortions only you can stop. Some minds and hearts and lives only you can save.